I've been finding him everywhere I go.
He hunts them.
Jim, old man hunter.
This episode is made possible by our TheraPartners, Dirty B. Pickett and Jake Schneider.
Jacques Schneider.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy, real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. And now, broadcasting from the Churn, that's Jim. I'm Nick. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Welcome back to fabulous Las Vegas and this fabulous Las Vegas podcast. Our associate therapist, Whitney, is AWOL because she is living her best life.
Yes.
In Italia, I believe is how you must always pronounce it. So.
Yep. Always with the fingers.
With the fingers.
And the thumb
yeah,
together.
always.
Always.
Fingers and the
Italia. You can't, listeners can't see this, but Jim did that when he said.
They know exactly what you're doing.
Oh, no, everybody, yeah. Everybody knows.
Do we all agree that you must do it with your dominant hand? Does that feel...
both, if you're serious.
Oh, yeah, well, that's for
really
emphasis. You can't always do that, then you're yelling. You need to.
I don't think you have to do dominant hand.
Look at how Jacob does it. He does a lot more wrist roll than you and I do. You and I don't do that.
No.
You do more elbow elevation. You do it
up here.
You start at a 90-degree angle, and then you lift.
When Nick is doing it, you can almost imagine him doing a Mussolini speech while he's doing that arm motion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just the virtues of fascism.
For the people.
Yeah. We can do it once we get rid of all
You are the party of the people. You are the proletariat.
If you would like to learn more about Nick's golfing addiction or a new game that we've invented called Hooker Roulette, go to patreon.com/therapy and you can learn all about it. You can also get access to our Extra Monday content and our very first Emma the Intern episode drop.
Yes, it did.
Last week. She did a great job.
Yes.
So she's launched a series, Therapy 101. And she's got all sorts of different things she's going to cover. She's basically creating an installment to the library, to the archives, which, reminder, if you go to patreon.com/therapy, you join the Therapod level or higher, you automatically get access to our entire content library of bonus information. A lot of it is educational, deep dives, therapy skills, walking you through all sorts of stuff. And Emma, our intern, is adding to that library with a great project, Therapy 101. She's breaking down everything you might want to know about getting started in therapy, how to do it, how to finance it, all the tricks and tips. And her first episode is about why people get therapy, like breaking down to that basic point. What is the point of this? How does this work? What is this and why do people do it? And so she gets into the science and the research about results, and she really gets down to the fundamentals. So it's going to be a really great series. We're really excited for that. Patreon.com/therapy. Every Monday we release new content, and she will be featured on some of those Mondays. So we've got a great series going.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a great show for you here today. Well, all right, let me set expectations lower. We have a show.
Yeah.
We're going to try. Without Whitney's supervision, you never really know what's going to happen. But
I need therapy today because I have injured my neck.
I keep seeing you reach over there.
So I slept apparently incorrectly last night.
No, it's that one.
And so watch. I'm going to turn my head right now to the right.
Okay. Ooh.
Look at that. Look at me go.
Yeah, look at that.
I'm all the way to the right.
Almost an owl, this man. He's going over the shoulder. Chin on the shoulder.
I get my chin on my shoulder.
Yeah, let's see the other side.
Let me turn to the left now.
See. Ooh, wow.
Okay. That's it.
You're barely crossing the navel.
Yeah.
Your nose is barely getting past the median.
I can tilt my head this far. I'm
wow.
A 45-degree angle with the head. Like, other way I'm fine. I put my ear on my shoulder.
Boy, it's been like that all day.
Good.
Yeah.
You woke up like that?
And it hurts.
That sucks.
It hurts so bad.
What do you do? Heat? Do you put
I
heat
have
on
tried
it?
heat. I have tried we have like a neck massager thing that kind of hangs around your neck and you put your arms in it to add some weight.
Is that the balls?
Works on that.
Do you move back and forth with it? Yeah.
And we've got one of those therapy canes. It's like a massager cane, so it hooks around and you can kind of pressure point. I sat in the hot tub for about 45 minutes.
Jeez.
And and I've also just taken drugs.
Yeah. Well, I assume that was step
and
one.
Nothing has helped yet.
Have you tried just turning your head really fast?
Yeah. We could actually do this for you.
I'll
hold your arms down.
It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. Really.
It just doesn't go.
It just stops.
Yeah.
It stops violently.
It stops painfully is what happens.
Oh, good for you for trying.
Oh, Man, we have all been there. Oh, that is the fucking worst.
It's so bad today.
It's so weird, and it's like, man, how could I just lay down?
How did I hurt myself this badly sleeping?
It's like, what did I do in my sleep?
Yeah.
Like, just fucking try
I
to
had a
turn
few
over.
letters in the last few weeks about just like
Old man
handling
pains.
getting old.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not doing well.
It found you, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough. Well, sorry to hear that.
I'm
man.
not handling it.
You know, I think we can get over it. We do a little shiatsu. We could get our elbows in your neck a little bit.
I mean, at this point, I'm not turning anything down.
Don't say. I'm not saying no. I'm in pain. Make this stop. All right. Well, we've got some letters to start with today, and the first one comes from our old friend and longtime supporter, Felicia Butler, who writes in about dealing with apathy. And she writes, "Hey guys, how do you deal with apathy? I've seen my little brother, age 19, just have no drive to get a job or even a license. He's content just staying at home, playing video games, and never leaving the house. He doesn't have any career interests. I've tried talking to him about potentially going into computer science, as my older brother and my husband have done that route after being into video games, but no dice. As a teacher, I've seen more and more students who don't care to get their license or seem aimless for what they're going to do after high school, even as seniors. Any advice on how to find that motivation? As someone who has always been driven, it's hard to understand what it's like to not have that. Thanks, and feel free to read my real name. Pronouns are she and her."
I have heard of this.
This is interesting to me.
Comes up.
So
Yeah.
I kind of became, so part of me is wondering like difference of like apathy versus generation, and if there's just something.
And location.
And location. Yeah, because like when I was a foster parent, I kind of ran into this issue of like driver's license.
Yeah.
And not only did the two kids that we had no interest whatsoever
In getting their driver's
ever
license.
learning how to drive, getting a license, getting a car or anything.
Okay.
But like it all these other kids that I knew through them or through work, they were all the same.
Yeah.
Like none of them had any motivation to really get a driver's license. And it was the weirdest thing for me because like, as you know, when we got that age,
It was a big deal.
we couldn't wait.
Yeah.
Like we got a learner's permit at 14.
Yeah. Jeez.
You know, we were
14.
driving to school. If we had a school permit, you know, we could drive to school.
Oh, Louisiana,
You know,
we didn't even have to get the learner's permit.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
The day I
Louisiana,
turned 15, I got my full driver's license.
Are you
yeah,
serious?
that doesn't surprise me.
Really?
Yeah.
On my 15th birthday, I walked in, they handed me a driver's license.
No way.
And a fifth of something.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
A handle.
Oh my God.
That was it was a daiquiri, just in a styrofoam cup.
Happy birthday, son. Time for your first beer.
Every time I still go to Louisiana, by the way, side note, I always stop in one of the drive-through daiquiri places.
There's a drive-through daiquiri place.
Not a drive-through daiquiri place. There are many drive-through daiquiri places.
They hand this to you through a window?
in a disposable cup with a lid and a straw.
Kidding me, dude. Really? There's not like laws against drinking and driving?
There most certainly are. And
But we have the honor
the
system,
rule
sir.
was don't put the straw in the drink.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
Yes, I am.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That is ridiculous.
Oh, Louisiana.
And that's why you shouldn't let your kids get driver's licenses.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we're not helping the cause.
Your little
at all.
brother's better off.
Yeah, I think that's
I do see this a lot too. So like I have a high schooler now, and I bring this up all the time.
Oh, you do?
I do, yeah.
Wow.
Old man Jobin. So my high schooler, I'll tell him, I'll be like, hey man, like we're driving around and I'll like notice cars, like, oh, that'd make a really good first car, or what do you think about those? And he's fine with it. He's like, yeah, no, I like those or whatever. But like not like we were in high school, where it's like, yeah, you're chomping at the bit. You're like going through the fucking penny trader or whatever.
Oh yeah,
Remember that?
I would get anything that had a steering wheel and four wheels.
Oh, talking about it all the time, like because it represented a lot. It represented freedom, and like I don't know, man. Like I know a lot of kids. I have a bunch of friends, obviously, that have high schoolers too. A lot of kids now, they have Uber accounts.
That's it.
They're just getting Ubered around, and there's like, and I get advertisements. I have like
if you can get where you want to go,
that's all that
having a
matters.
means of transportation matters a lot less.
They don't really care. And like the personalization, I think it matters a lot less. And I'm sure the economy is a big part of it too. Like I think this generation has grown up having households that have much lower means than any other generation previously. It's not a think, that's a fact. Like, it is a reality. The purchasing power of the average American family has dipped over the last 40 years. Like, there's just no question. And so, like, I think that they've also reset their expectations, like what's interesting. Their home lives have become much more interesting. Their social lives a lot of times are electronic. So, like, all those things I think are part of this. But this deeper question of, like, what do you do when you have a person that doesn't have that motivation? I have 2 tricks that I try to use, because this comes up a lot. I get a lot of men and women, but I'll get young people like, and sometimes not necessarily young, but obviously you're expecting that, late teens, mid-20s. Like, you'll meet people that go, I just don't know where my life's going. And a lot of times they are still, like, living with family. And sometimes it comes up as like, hey, they're kind of pushing me out of the nest. I don't know what to do. I don't care about any of this. I don't want to make anybody mad at me, but I'm not self-propelled, right? The 2 areas that I always start with, one, I start with the values inventory, which we've talked about on the show before, because I want to figure out what, if anything, even matters to you, right? Because if you just ask them, they're always going to be like, I don't know, nothing. Like, oh, do you want, like, a cool car? Do you want a nice house? I don't know, I don't really care. What kind of jobs are you interested in? I don't know, I don't really care. And so, like, do you want money? Like, what are your motives? Do you want to date somebody? Like, so I like to start with the values inventory to get oriented to things that, if they had to pick, matter to them. And then explore that with them. Like, what are the things that matter to you? Some of them are like, I don't know, I'm kind of into politics, or maybe I am into gaming, but, like, in a competitive way, or maybe I care about the environment, or whatever. Like, you drill into the things that somewhat resonate with them on a personal level. Then part 2, I go straight to that ONET inventory, the career profiler. It's offered through the government. So if you type in ONET, career profiler, you'll get taken to a free program that is a personality and career test. And so it's really, really good. I've talked about it.
You go online and take an aptitude test?
Yes. So, like, it applies. So, like, when you take it, it's not.
I'm too afraid to take that, because I'm wondering, like,
it's not aptitude. It's personality based. So it's like, but
it tells you what job.
Yeah, career fit.
Yeah, that's aptitude, right?
I'm not sure.
Isn't that what aptitude is?
I don't know. I feel like the word aptitude hits me as, like, potential or, like, capacity. But what I fucking know. But so it basically, you take this test and it says, okay, here are your personality sections. And it says, okay, people with these personality, like, dominant traits, they tend to get into these fields. And then it takes the fields and it breaks them into 5 different zones according to how much preparation goes into it. So zone 1, you can do this right out of high school. Zone 5 is going to be, some amount of education plus training, maybe like an apprenticeship, things like that. And so then it provides links, and, like, you can click them and you can learn all about the career and how much money they make. So, like, I make the person do that because no matter what, they are going to generate results. They're going to take a personality test, which they can take in an unmotivated way. It doesn't matter. And then it just forks over all these results.
Yeah.
And then I go over those with them, and I try to, like, tease out in a conversational way, what do you think of this one? How does that sound? What is do you know anything about this? And then, thing by thing, if they ping it all, I'll get them to, like, do some research on the job and at least come back to me and teach me, like, so what did you learn about this career? How do you get into it? How much money do they make? What is a day in their life? And it's, a little bit of, like, psychoeducation at that point. But those are 2 of the steps that I'll use to at least get a conversation going. And then we'll look at the careers that popped up and we'll compare that to their values and say, if you were to pursue this kind of career, here's how that might align with your values. And so at least now there's some very tiny toehold of personal buy-in from their perspective, that this is all based on who they are, not social expectations, not me just trying on hats and seeing what they like or giving them options so they can just yay or nay them. But it starts there. And so those are 2 tricks that I use whenever I'm dealing with young people that kind of feel like they have a lack of motivation.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think for me, does the idea of, like, that the next generation seems less motivated, does that worry you at all? Because for me, it doesn't.
No,
okay.
It doesn't worry me at all.
Yeah.
Huh.
For one thing, I think every single generation ever has thought that about
the next generation.
The proceeding generation.
They're all slackers.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every generation in history, the only thing that they agree on is that the next generation is shitty.
Socrates was like, look at these kids playing fucking hoop and stick.
Yeah. Look at that Aristotle motherfucker over there.
Does nothing.
Thinks he knows everything.
Just wants to sit around, fucking draw.
Doesn't even know what aptitude means.
Because I kind of get, like, the sense of, like, I guess, to quote the great philosopher Jeff Goldblum,
Yes.
life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
Yeah. Like it just, it's like it looks different to us. From our generation, what they're doing looks completely different. But if we don't interfere and we just let it go, it will work itself out. And they kind of like they will learn how to autocorrect and to kind of fix their situation and live within the environment that they live in.
Right.
Like they can kind of adapt that. And for whatever I don't know what the reason is why they're not interested in getting a license or why it feels like they just don't know what they're going to do after high school. Mm-hmm. There could be a multitude of reasons why, but I have, I don't want to say faith, but I have like a sense that they'll work it out.
Yeah.
Like they will kind of figure that out.
Do you feel...
Their generation will look different, but they'll figure it out.
I think, I'll bet the average is true. I think you're right. Like in a sociological context, it'll all be fine. In a human-to-human context, a family looking at a younger member of the family or a younger sibling and feeling like there's a failure to launch and being worried for them, to ruffle the feathers of that little bird to see if it'll get out of the nest.
Keep this analogy going, Joe.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Bird leaving the nest. Go.
Yeah. Do you feel like you would encourage the family
of birds,
the nest owners, so to speak, to make the nest smaller? Do you think that they need to create some natural consequences or allow this person to experience some of the different... Because if this person says, hey, I want to go to this store. I don't have a license. Mom, will you drive me? Would you tell the family, let's start talking about cutting that back, right? Because when he was 15, your parental responsibilities were quite different. He's a young adult now, and if he's choosing not to stand up, you don't have to carry him around.
Yes, I definitely, I'm all in favor of natural consequences, and just kind of being able to pull back a little bit and like, okay, well, here's the problem, work it out.
Right.
I guess that's kind of what I was getting at, saying like they will kind of find a way, which is like when they're left with problems, they're going to have to step up and they're going to have to solve those problems.
I like that point.
And so, but here's the other thing though, too, is we can't then say, well, they're not solving it the way I would have.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not our job. Yeah. They solve it the way that they're
solving it.
Like I see somebody posted this thing once. It was this video of somebody like doing like a TED talk or whatever, talking about the next generation. And I don't like, I feel protective of the next generation.
Okay.
Like I want to defend the next generation because they're getting shit on.
Yeah.
Way more than they should.
Yeah.
And like this woman was on stage and she was saying something to the effect of, like, well, these kids, they don't know how to they don't know how to write a letter. They don't know how to put anything in the postage on in the...
How stupid.
Yeah, they don't know how to do this.
Whatever,
and
Grandma.
in my mind, well, what I'm thinking is like, and you don't know how to drive a horse and buggy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like every generation has some sort of technology that goes obsolete in their time that doesn't get passed on to the next one.
You know what I hear all the time? Cursive.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's
cursive.
Furious. Like, do you kids even take cursive anymore? My kids are like, no.
Yeah. No.
And like, it's really funny because like elder generations,
Yeah.
like the grandparent generations, like, oh my God, like you kids can't, your handwriting's terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll look at that elder person and be like, what's your typing speed?
Yeah.
What's your words per minute? Because my kids type at 120.
Hey, transfer this Word doc into a PDF.
Yeah.
That's right. But that happens. That's
also
what,
like, how do I write in cursive? There's a font for that.
Yeah, I don't need to do it. It's called calligraphy, bitch.
And like, if we held on to that and we had to teach the next generation useless information that they will never use, then we're wasting time when they could be learning skills that are useful for their time.
This current generation is terrible at identifying edible plants in the wild.
Not the scouts.
They're so
they
bad at
it. They train.
Yeah.
But no, I like this
and
point.
even them, I don't trust them with it either.
This weekend, we were...
They're neckerchiefs.
we welcomed a new nephew into our growing family. In this last year, my sibling and my wife's siblings have produced now 4 little boys in our family tree. So I have 4 nephews that just have been popping up. We're done for now. It seems like nobody's pregnant anymore. So recently,
I don't know. You got a high schooler.
Yeah. God willing, the family tree is set for a while. But we babysat our eldest nephew because he had a little brother being born, and so we were watching him. He's a toddler, and so we were having a really great time with him and stuff. But he, had a bunch of fun with toys and stuff in the loft and playing with all the old toys. And so he makes a mess, and then he's gone. And then the next day I get my kids, and I'm like, hey, I want you kids to clean up the loft. I realize you didn't do this, but whatever. I don't give a shit. It's your stuff. I'm the boss. Clean it up. And so they're doing it or whatever. And I tell them, hey, we're going to split this up. You do this half, you do that half. Well, my daughter, is just, she has a lot of wonderful qualities. One of them is she is a leader. Okay, which some people would misinterpret as being bossy, but not Jim, because I'm a feminist, so I'm for it.
Right.
But we have to rein that shit in sometimes too. And so she's like hollering at my high school son, and she's like, "You're doing it wrong. You gotta clean up this way." And I pulled her aside. I'm like, "Hey, that's not how this works. Let me give you a little bit of life advice. When you ask somebody to do something, you don't get to tell them how to do it as well. Like you really have to let them do it their way in their order." And it might not be the way you do it, and you might have a really good rhyme and reason to how you do what you do and why it makes sense. But you can't spend your whole life like lecturing other people. I like that you brought that up because it sounds like you're saying with this 19-year-old, the dignity of discomfort move is probably smart. Ruffling the feathers, shrinking the nest, allowing the person to lose some of these luxuries that allow them to lay in the hammock, right?
Right.
Don't spit baby worms into his mouth anymore.
Yeah, or do that. Whatever. Like this, you're not eating for
whichever
free.
makes him go away.
You eat what I vomit out. Yeah, but then you're saying you can create the discomfort, but you don't get to decide how he solves that. So he may say, "All right, I'm going to go get a part-time job, but not a license. I'm going to take the bus."
Yeah,
and I'm gonna get an Uber account, and that's what I choose to do because I don't believe in owning a car. And you might think, God, it would be so much better for our whole family if you just get a fucking car, but you don't get to decide that, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or if they get a job, you don't get to decide which one. It's enough that they're doing it their way.
Yeah, and then they kind of have to learn from that. Like, well, this is the job I picked.
Yeah.
I don't really like this job. Well, okay. Well, now we have.
But you could create
obstacle.
requirements like, hey, we're going to charge you $100 a month to live here. It's a very reasonable amount. It's not hard to earn that much, but you need to figure that out. And
But then you also have to be okay with the consequence, which is
homelessness.
Okay, $100 a month. Yeah, cool. And then just like, okay, well, it's always going to be this way. Because I'll pay $100 a month for the next several years.
Right.
Well, I know it's this way now.
Yeah.
Rent goes up.
It's however old you are times $10. I think that's the deal. Like it's 190. But no, it's tough. And I think it is really tough. And I appreciate the challenges families have. And I've seen this a lot. A couple of years ago, I had a young man come in, high schooler, back when I still did pediatric cases. And he was very much in this boat. He was elder high school. Would not get a driver's license. Mom was like trying to get him motivated, not interested in talking about his future, not interested in thinking about school, grades not strong. She wanted him to get a job. She wanted him to like grow up and like show some independence. And it was really tough because there was no amount of punishing she could do. Like, it's you can take things away, like, okay. I'm like, well, I'm taking away your Xbox. All right. I'm shutting down the internet. All right. Well, you're not allowed to read a book. You just have to sit here and stare at the window and be like,
it's like,
I'm going to win this game.
Well,
I don't care.
It's like, if the punishment is you just need to lay in bed. And it's like,
okay.
Oh, as a teenager, I just have to lay in bed all day? Yeah, I can do that.
And it was tough because she'd get really frustrated. She's like, what am I supposed to do? Hit him? Like, I can't do that. And she's like, and the punishment can't be go do chores because he just declines, right? And like, I
every
can't just
now and then
throw
you
him
do
out.
understand why people beat their children.
Here we go. I knew it was coming.
You go like,
that Louisiana Wyndham.
I get it. I get it.
He'll cut you a switch, boy.
I don't have kids. I don't think you should beat kids. I definitely had to go get my own switches when I was a kid. Like, I did that shit.
And he got you done. He
And,
got his driver's license at 15.
And I'm like, I don't think
daiquiri on the way home.
I don't particularly think that's the best way to parent. Whatever. I mean, if that's what your bag is, that's what your bag is.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
natural
I
consequences
get it though.
Seem to be the best move.
The little bit that I'm around kids, I'm like, y'all are some frustrating small people.
I'm just going to hard pivot away from this. So, I think that the natural consequences.
I would beat the shit out of Jim's kids.
You want some life coaching? You just bring your kid to Uncle Jacob. He'll sort him out. But you have to meet him in Mexico. We got to get this off the grid.
He guarantees that he will not use a closed fist unless they really need it.
Unless he's just upset that day.
Yeah.
Depends on
Unless
how
he's having a
hungover.
bad day.
It's like, how much can he rotate his neck that day?
Yeah.
That's really. I can't do it today.
I mean, today I'd be terrible at
You're
beating
not getting
kids
much.
today.
Yeah,
because like I'd say this arm isn't doing a whole lot of good either. Like this arm, like I get up to about shoulder level.
If you get on Uncle Jacob's left-hand side, you're pretty much
You're
home
safe.
free.
Yeah,
he
you're
can't.
fine.
He's not. He's turning at the waist to find you.
Yeah.
No, that's not how Jacob would do it. Jacob would just hold his arm out. You run into this full speed.
Yeah,
You
like Full
gotta
Metal
run into this-
Jacket. Choke yourself, Gomer Pyle. Anyway, Ryder, I think that's our advice.
That was terrible. Oh, this show.
Oh, Whitney's gone. We've lost our moral compass. I felt like it used to, we just rein ourselves in. There was a lady in the room. Those days are gone. They'll come back. But anyway, I like all these suggestions, but I appreciate that they're not bulletproof here, because you can have that game of chicken where the person just says, look, you're threatening to throw me out or something. Do it. I can't lie. And it's tough because parents they look at a kid like this and they're not like, you're not a bad kid, right? Like, you're not stealing things. You're not disrespectful. You just lack motivation, and it's genuine, and you don't feel proud of that. You seem to be ashamed of it. And when we talk to you about it, you listen to us and you hear us, and we can tell that you seem just apathetic. And it's tough as a parent when you see that, because you're like, I don't want to punish this kid. I don't want to make his life harder. I want to lift my kid up. I want to put rocket fuel in this car and really see him go. But he's not finding his way. And that's therapeutically why I offer those other ideas. And I've had to work. So one of the things that really helps is a technique that you and I both use in addiction treatment, motivational interviewing, which is all about, because you can use the stages of change to apply to the trans-theoretical model of change. You can apply that to this and say, where is this person at? Are they in pre-contemplation where they don't even see what the problem is? Do they agree there is a problem, but they don't know how to fix this? Do they want to fix this and they're thinking about ways, but they're not really doing anything yet? Are they trying to do things, but it's not taking yet? And so motivational interviewing is about trying to inquisitively, Socratically help that person grow that little, ember of flame, or, just hot embers, into a flame, into a fire. And that is a technique that we would probably apply here, which is why I try to use task-based interventions. Do this values analysis. It isn't a lot of insight. You don't have to think very hard, kid. You just have to circle words on a page and then explain them. Take this test. Look at these results with me. Click these links. Identify information about this career. Come back to me and tell me 5 facts. Fill in this page that asks questions about that career. Get the data. So I like task-based interventions that get them active, that they can participate with. And then I like to weave that into motivational interviewing slowly, kindly, never in this shame-based way of don't you want to be cool? No bullshit like that. Don't you want to have a girlfriend, bro? No, fuck that. That's imposing values. That's trying to say, you should live up to the 1950s standard of whatever masculinity is, or people are going to think you're a loser, dude, or whatever.
If you don't know how to operate this rotary phone, how are you going to make it?
How are you going to call grandma? Come on. So, I like that, but it is a very slow process. And historically, I'll see people start to catch some fire, but it's all those pieces combined. It's the shrinking nest, reality of being allowed to touch them a little bit, the dignity of discomfort, creating small little obtainable goals, building their confidence with some small tasks. I've seen families require of their adult child, like a 19-year-old, okay, listen, man, you might not be getting a job, but we require that you participate in 20 hours of community service a month. And we are a family who does things, and we want you to be a man who does things, and we believe that you are a young, strapping boy, and there's people in this community that need your help. And I've seen that take off, where they're just showing up at Goodwill, and they're volunteering, or they're going to an animal shelter, and they're volunteering. But then all of a sudden there's some motivation because they get there, and it's a different crowd, there's no family, there's peers, and then they're coming over to you like, hey, can you help us out? There's this bad thing that just happened. If we don't help, if we don't clean off this dog, nobody's going to adopt this dog. And then it touches them. And they're like, yeah, no, I'm needed here.
Yeah.
And then they start getting this sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Yes. Because contextually you get the purpose from the work. So if you can't get somebody to get a job, I love at least requiring them to perform community service or get involved somewhere.
It's probably a good idea.
That is a great way to start stretching those muscles, you know? Like, I remember there was a church that did something like that with college-age, people that if they didn't have a job, they could volunteer with the church. And the church would use them to, like, help move old women's houses. Like, you'd have a widow, and, like, she needs to downgrade her house, and she'd come to the church for help, and the church would be like, great, we're sending you 5 strapping young men in a freaking truck. You just sit over here, ma'am, and they're just going to take care of everything. And we're not charging anything. Like, they just need to do this. So I love stuff like that. And that could be a small way but the therapist can't require that. Like, that has to be the family. And that's kind of that shaking the tree a little bit to push them out of the nest.
Yep.
But I don't want to just throw them out of the fucking tree. I don't like that either. So you got to find a middle ground here.
Yep.
Anyway, I think we made our point. Send them to Uncle Jacob. He'll set them straight. That's usually the right answer. Also, Pod Therapy does not condone children being sent to Jacob for any reason whatsoever. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back...
Hold my pocket.
We're discussing... Should I see a female therapist? Oh, shit, we're doing this on a Whitney free one?
Yeah!
Great. This question's literally written toward Whitney.
Perfect. Cool. Fine. We don't have a whole lot of questions. We got to go with what we got.
Enough to
No,
not
we don't.
do this.
No, we really don't.
We're doing that one.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr., Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Lib, Hey Yo, Andrew Langmead. Would you like to sponsor the show? Become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. All right. Dreams that make you go, I've only got 3 of these, so we're going to do 1 per break.
All right.
A common dream where your teeth crumble or fall out is often interpreted as anxiety about what?
Ooh.
A, financial stability. B, personal health. C, appearance or communication. Or D, fear of aging.
Oh, boy.
I think I know this one.
I think I do too.
Oh.
Because my sister and I...
And now it's gonna be a fun game to see if Nick and I have the same answer.
My sister and I have always had the same reoccurring dream.
Your teeth falling out?
Yes. which is that, like, we'll feel one tooth and it has a little wiggle, and you just wiggle it and it just falls out, and then every tooth you touch after that just falls.
You and your sister both have this dream?
Yeah, we both have the same dream.
Did you guys, like, see a horror movie or something? Or, like, did you have, like, an old family member with dentures that messed with you?
No.
I saw my grandpa pull out his teeth, and it fucked me up real good.
I mean, our grandpa, I guess, did pull out all of our teeth.
Why do grandpas... they don't do it anymore because I think they get them, like, sewn in now or whatever, like, drilled in. But the old denture grandpas, man, universally, they made that a prop comedy show, and it was always horrifying. Wish they would not have done that.
No. Oh, you mean grandparents taking their teeth out?
Yes.
No, I'm talking like my grandpa pulled my teeth out.
Oh, your loose teeth.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Oh,
okay.
he lived for it. It was his favorite thing.
I'm the teeth puller in our
Yeah.
family. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. Which is really funny is my wife freaks out. Like, if a kid has a loose tooth, she's like, get the fuck away from me. I'll never touch it. And they're like, look at it wiggle, Mom. She's like, stop. It's freaking me out. And I'll just grab a tissue and just yank. All right. So I'm going to vote on, I think it's the aging and communication. Is that C, aging and communication?
No, appearance and communication.
I'll take that one.
That's what I think it is.
Oh, see, I think it's A.
What's A?
Oh, you think it's financial stability?
I think it's financial.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. It's probably going to be E, you're gay. It's always Freud. You want to have sex with your mom and you're gay. Somehow.
It is C, appearance and communication.
there you
Goose! 1 point to the good guys. Well done. Dream analysis.
It's just because it's not about a real therapy-based science.
Right, yeah.
Because if it was, then I just get it.
No, you're actually not wrong. The dream interpretation is just a load of bullshit. Don't agree with any of it. Next question. No, not from the script. Next trivia question.
No, we're doing 1 per break. I already said that.
Yeah.
Man, this union fucking rules. We're not reading questions that involve the female therapist. We're doing 1 per break. Whatever. Should I see a female therapist?
Nope. Moving on.
Hi, guys. I'm a cis male, and I don't like how my brain tends to over-sexualize women. I want to get to a point where I stop checking out every attractive woman I see. I'm married, and I think it's unfair to my wife for me to be like this. Also, I respect women, and I feel like my behaviors in this area are similar to a lot of men that don't respect women. I want that to change. I'm seeing a therapist for other issues, but my therapist is a woman, and I've been shy to ask her about this problem because I don't want her to feel uncomfortable. I don't really want to switch therapists. Most of the male therapists in my area that specialize in this issue are church pastors, and I'm an atheist after a childhood of religious trauma. I'd like to take a secular approach to getting better. So my question is it appropriate to address these issues with a female therapist, basically admitting, hey, I've checked you out at one point or another because you're a woman? Have you ever had to deal with something like this? Thanks, and sorry, Whitney. Signed, Anonymous. Pronouns are he and him.
Good news about your apology to Whitney. She accepts your apology.
I think we can accept on her behalf.
Yeah.
I think we can accept. Yeah. She's fine with it.
Yeah. She doesn't mind at all.
Letter's not offensive. She doesn't care.
I don't know about you guys. I think, talk to your therapist.
Admit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think, I wouldn't want you to say, so let's talk about how attractive I find you.
Yeah. I would talk
That's
about it in the
different.
same way that you talk about anything else.
Yeah. I have a struggle. I notice I have a wandering eye. I notice that I have a knee-jerk instinct reaction where I notice women a lot, and I feel self-conscious about that. And I wonder, and I worry that makes me a bad guy. I worry that makes me sexist. And Ryder, this is an area that I think the therapist, first off, your therapist is a big girl. She's going to be just fine.
It's not going to be the most difficult thing she's had to deal with.
Hell no. Hell no. I was just talking to my students about this the other day because one of them had a situation where they had done an intake and we were rounding on the intake and they were like, I'm a little bit concerned because, this intake, he was talking about how he's kind of a womanizer and stuff. And, so I really think we need to partner him with a male therapist. And we have like one male therapist in the whole clinic. And I was like, no, we don't, that's not, there are times and places where I'm fine with it. If the patient asks for a male therapist, for example, we're doing that, but like, no. And she was like, well, what if this guy develops a crush on his female therapist? And what are we going to do then? And I was like, let me tell you something. We need to go ahead and get this out of the way right now. This is going to happen. Hey guys, you hear that? I think it's coming. I think it's heading our way. I think it's the truck.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, this is something you're all going to have to get used to in your career. You're going to have male patients that develop feelings for you. Like that is just going to happen. So I want you to deal with this now when we're here to mentor you. But no, you're absolutely right. This is not going to be the weirdest thing your therapist has heard. And honestly, Ryder, I like the opportunity to therapeutically crack this open because I think there's a lot of interesting questions the therapist is going to have. Mm-hmm. I think one, they want to analyze what kind of attraction is this? Do you find that your head turns? Is it one of those things where you just instinctively notice people? And does that make you feel bad? You mentioned you have a history of religious trauma. Does that make you feel unclean? Does that make you feel shame? Does that make you think you're a bad guy merely because you notice how attractive women are and your eyes flicker and you follow them? So what that would reveal right there, Ryder, is that there could be some kind of like wrong sizing of this and cognitive distorting of it where you're internalizing this perhaps more than is really relevant here. A therapist wants to get in there with you and help you take a look at that. It could be something further along where it's like, no, it's pretty obsessive. And like, then I fantasize about this person all day. It's intrusive. It's distracting. That's very therapeutically interesting, right? Because if you're having intrusive
I follow people
thoughts,
home.
Right? That's the fourth option. Yeah,
I hang out outside their house.
Definitely more and more.
I hardly ever go in.
So yeah, I definitely think this is all fair game for therapy. I don't think your therapist is going to be afraid of this or uncomfortable with this, as long as you're proper about it. I don't want you to come at this person and say, so I think about women and how attractive they are, like you, for example, love your hair today. Like, don't do that bullshit.
Well, yeah.
Don't come at it as a joke.
Right.
Don't be funny about it.
Yeah.
Come at it from the same place you come at everything else when you're talking to your therapist.
Right.
Say, hey, here is the issue, and here is why it is causing me concern.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I like that.
You can present it the same way you present everything else. When you have the dream about your teeth falling out and you tell the therapist about it, you tell the therapist about this the same way.
Makes me feel weird.
Yeah, and you don't even have to mention anything about your particular therapist.
Yeah.
Right. You can just bring it up as I have a tendency.
I mean, she might ask.
Over-sexualize women.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to bring it. It doesn't have to be about the therapist.
Yeah.
Now, if she connects those dots,
she might ask just to get it out in the open.
Look, it's an unspoken reality. And like, look, let's put shoe on the other foot, okay? As male therapists, our equivalent of this happening, because I don't think that women just constantly say, I'm so attracted to men all the time, I can't stop looking at them, and just like leave it hanging that we're a dude. That isn't.
That happens to me all the time. Nick,
well,
doesn't that
but
happen
you're
to you
not
all
a
the time?
therapist,
Yes,
Jacob.
it happens to Nick all the time.
Weird. That's so
Yeah.
weird. Do you think
Most
it's the mustache?
guys-
Do you think
I'm
starting to worry about the mustache,
I think
guys.
it's the mustache.
I'm starting to worry the mustache doesn't play.
You're starting to.
You guys, this is all the time for you. All the time.
Yeah, constantly.
That's so weird. That's so
No,
weird.
but like, here's the thing. Like, I have been
I
in this
stopped
situation.
4 times on my scooter coming
Yeah.
here tonight.
Yeah.
Just for women to tell me that.
women just peel out and pull in front of you in the lane, right? And then you stop and they get out and they're like, excuse me, you were overwhelmingly attractive.
Yeah.
And that's with the helmet on.
That's with the helmet on.
Yeah.
This mustache holding me back, guys.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I think it's time. Go ahead, Nick.
I
you
mean,
were
I've
saying.
been in this situation before where, like, I have worked with women who have pretty much said, like, yes, I know I'm overly sexual, and
Right.
all these behaviors as a result of blah 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 whatever, and I've never in my situation, I've always just, and I don't know if this is intentional or if I do it for the sake of being the therapist, I always just assume that speaks to every other man except me.
Yes. Another example of
You know?
that is women saying, I have a history of getting involved in these relationships and falling in love too quick. And you hear them start talking about their relationship history. Like, well, I fell for this guy. Why? He was nice to me. He listened to me. And so like there's this strong implication by the context of how they describe how quickly they fall in love or feelings that they develop for people, that they might develop feelings for a guy in your position, right? So we know how to connect those dots, Ryder. It doesn't need to be spoken because it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
The greater picture, like, yeah, sure, okay, great. Measuring your attractedness to your therapist is irrelevant to treating your problem. The problem is I have this indiscriminating, like, interest and desire in people, and I regret that I have that because I don't find it useful to my life. I associate it with those who I don't have a lot of respect for, and I feel it's dishonorable to my partner. Help me work through that.
There you go.
And there's 10 different approaches to that problem. I think the therapist is curious of, like I said, well, let's analyze this. Are you being too hard on yourself? And where did you learn those lessons? Is there a cognitive distortion? Or on the other end of the spectrum, let's look at this. Is this something that's become compulsive? Is it something akin to an addiction? And do we need to like crack that open a little bit and start talking about like, behavioral intervention and trying to wean you away from a habit?
Yeah.
But this is something that you should absolutely talk about.
Yeah, because I mean, part of this, there's a biological component in here that we shouldn't pathologize.
No.
Which is like, if you're just walking someplace and you see a woman go by and she's attractive and you kind of glance over, like, there's nothing wrong there.
Right.
Like, that's just your biological part of your brain that's just like, oh, possible mate.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Now, if you feed into it
That's
and
different.
it becomes problematic, then now that's a different problem.
If you walk over and give her an atta-girl,
Yeah. One of those.
tap her on the butt,
Little,
Yeah.
look good today, kid.
Burn the hell out of those heels.
Right. Yeah.
Those Ugg boots are great. So are those still a thing? Are we doing Ugg boots still? Those
I don't
know what's
Yes.
relevant. Yeah, fanny packs.
I mean, they still exist.
Okay.
I looked down because I was like, you're
Just
probably
tennies.
wearing them.
I
So
would, but I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Oh, I have 2 pairs of Ugg boots.
I like
My
that.
wife has bought them for me.
I'm for
They're
it.
great.
Okay.
They're wonderful. Like all
like
winter
this a
long.
lot.
I wear them all winter long. They also don't look like Ugg boots. They're of a style that they don't look like that traditional style of Ugg boot.
Okay. A little different there.
Yeah.
Is it a fug boot? Are they fraudulently Ugg?
Oh, no, they're Uggs.
Legitimate Uggs.
Yeah, they're legit.
Ooh. I almost bought a Rolex from a pawn shop the other day.
Okay.
It was too expensive.
Okay.
Still,
Good story.
Still way over $50.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I did not want to pay
Jim
for that.
thought about doing something this week,
Jim almost did a thing, but didn't.
but decided not to.
Ryder, I
After
wouldn't.
not a whole lot of thought.
Ryder, I wouldn't switch therapists. I don't think. I wouldn't in this.
No.
2 reasons why. Number one, it's hard to find a therapist. If you have one that you like, stick with them.
Don't throw that away.
Number two, this could be a good thing. And I'll kind of get, you asked for examples. So I already gave you one example that I have had to deal with. But we've mentioned before in the show that one of the first jobs that I took when I moved to Vegas was working at a women's residential
Yes.
rehab facility.
Yes.
I was one of 2 men that worked on that entire campus.
Yeah.
And actually,
attention, Nick?
I didn't. I got a little attention. No, but I didn't realize that.
It's because he killed the other 6 guys.
Right. I was.
There can only be one.
The other guy was hired 6 months before me, and he was the first male to ever work in that building.
Wow.
I was the second.
Jeez.
Okay, and it was a good thing. And before the philosophy, the belief was like, well, it's a women's facility. We're going to have all women therapists. But that's not necessarily a good thing. Like it is important because a lot of these women didn't have good relationships with male figures. So having a male therapist meant that they had to actually learn what is a good relationship like with a male figure. They had to figure that out. And so we brought a different perspective and a different insight into that environment.
Yes.
So I think it could be a good thing.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I think that's huge. Mm-hmm. I think especially as male therapists, that is one of the things that when I first got started in the career, I was always really surprised about in private practice. Because, when you're coming up and, you look at your cohort that you're in grad school with, I mean, it's 80, 90% female. And a lot of times the way that you're talking to your peers and even your professors is sort of like, and we're really glad to have Jim here because, men need therapy too. And that's the way it's always positioned, right? Is like, no, I'll take all the husbands. Don't, send them to me. And that's how even my students think, right? It's like every time there's a male client, they're like, okay, we'll send it to the dude. And I'm like, no, like, that's not how this works. But like, that was one of the things that I was really surprised by when I got into private practice early in my career was how often female clients would come in and they'd be wanting to talk about things that did feel really intimate or things that I would feel like, I'm surprised you picked me. And I remember early in my career even asking at some point, like, hey, have you considered maybe a female therapist would be better for this? And I remember the 1 or 2 times that I had said that during my, this was like grad school internships. I was very, very young in this. And they had said things like, well, actually, I chose a male on purpose because I've never had a healthy man in my life. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, there was one woman I worked with, and this was later on in my career, and I'd worked with her for a really long time. And she just had all these terrible misadventures with men and just always being objectified and, kind of just worked in nightlife and just always that was her reality. And it just really affected her. And I'd worked with her for, at this point, probably like 2 years and just had seen her through a lot of tough relationships, a lot of tough realities. And one day she was going through a new crisis with men, and she just, in a moment of, I think, just honesty and just exhaustion, she was just ranting, and we're talking, and she said something like, I don't remember, but it was a paragraph of information where she just was ranting, and she was saying, it's like, for once in my life, I want to meet a man who does not want to have sex with me. The only man in my life who's ever not tried to have sex with me is the man who is legally forbidden from having sex with me, my therapist. And I was like, wow, like the way, but.
So then your response was, you haven't picked up on any of my signals?
Yeah. So I need you to not check your phone.
So it's off the table?
As I put the liquor bottle back on the bookshelf, like, no, I agreed. I snuff out the candles.
Let me turn this music off that I turned on over here. I'll just turn this on. And there we go.
The liquor truck is coming. So, I remember just appreciating the way she had said that, right? Because, it had never come up. We had never addressed that. I don't show any of that interest in her. But she just had thrown this out there. But, it really hit me. Like, God, she's right. Her whole life, every man she's ever met has tried to take advantage of her or has been nice to her for one reason, has been playing a game, and it was strange to her that I was this only guy. And we went deeper after that and talked more about this over time. And she had shared with me, for the first 6 months of doing weekly therapy with you, in the back of my head, every session, I would think, here it comes. This is going to be the day that he eventually he hints or drops, some inappropriate comment and just slowly tries to test the water. And then it's been 2 years and you've never done that. And I was like, yeah,
Did you pick up on the fact that she was a little offended?
Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, just what's your problem anyway? I come here with my hair done. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, it goes. I think that silhouettes your point. That shoe on the other foot. it can be really healthy when you notice one of your challenges is with the opposite gender or the opposite sexuality. And sometimes finding that person that in some ways embodies some of your challenges can actually be a really great growth thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah, I think I think you're doing what you need to do. Don't be afraid to bring it up, and definitely keep your therapist.
I think we did great without Whitney. I think I was wrong.
I'd say better.
Yeah.
You know what? He's right. She would have brought us down. Should have been like, sleep with her. That's usually what Whitney's all about.
Yeah, she's so unethical.
Just throwing it around. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're talking about finding out my therapist is a Trump supporter. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Full disclosure, usually during these breaks, Whitney fucks the patient. So it's good that she's not here tonight.
Yes, very good. Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr.mans, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Lib, Heyo, and Andrew Langmead. If you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy.
People wonder why we're not on Twitch. That's why.
There you go.
It's because it's explicit.
Because of Whitney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't blur that out live.
Yeah.
You know?
Dreaming of flying without any assistance might symbolize a desire for what in your waking life?
Oh, I forgot this was the trivia
dreams.
question and not just a letter from a listener. Wow.
Well, these are trivia questions from a listener.
Yeah,
All right, that's true.
yeah.
That's
from
true.
our intern. She
Yeah.
listens.
I hope she doesn't.
She may have stopped. Does it mean wealth, freedom or escape, fame, or knowledge?
Do you guys, have you ever had a dream where you're flying?
Yes.
I feel like we've done, remember that time years ago we did one where it was like the survey of the most common dreams?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of them, was like somehow you're falling or flying.
I
in the
think
dream?
so. I've never had falling. I think I've had flying, too.
I've had falling a bunch.
Yeah.
I've had falling. Flying was less.
You know what
common.
dream I get a lot and it fucks me up really bad? It's the one where something's happening and I need to run.
Yes.
And it's like my body is
Because I'm a bad boy.
My body is like made of stone. And it's like it's like you're trying to run through just like sludge. And I'm like, with everything I've got, I'm exerting and nothing is happening.
I have the same dream. I think it's because of this podcast.
Okay.
I think it's-
Feeling
we want it to be
trapped.
successful, and we just keep pushing
We're
and
just
pushing, and
going up that hill.
God damn it, no one's listening to us.
Sisyphus rolling the stone.
We're trying to make this listenable, but it's just so
can't
much
do it.
fun to just make jokes.
Drop F-bombs and talk about hooker buses. Why don't people take us seriously? Why can't we get legitimate guests? Fair. Okay, so that's
Unclear.
probably the answer to the question. I'm going to go with freedom. That feels like a putt.
That's what I was going to go with too. B.
Yeah, this is America. I'm going freedom.
Oh, I like that. Eagle bitch.
Hell yeah, America.
Yeah. We got it?
Freedom or escape.
Hell yeah. Americans, I think, dream of flying.
Freedom or escape, I think, is the motto of America.
I think it freedom or
escape.
get out.
Or you can get out.
You can escape out of moving fucking bus. All right, only one question, right? So we're all tied
Yep.
at winning. I like
We're
it.
all tied at winning.
I like it. Found out my therapist is a Trump supporter. Hey, I voted today. I did early voting.
I saw your
oh, that's right. I
Instagram.
posted it on our
Oh, by the
socials.
way, did you see the other post on Instagram?
No?
We have had our first listener pilgrimage to Britt, Iowa.
No way. Somebody went?
Smitty.
Oh, did Smitty go for HoboCon?
No, it wasn't at HoboCon.
He just decided to stop by Britt, Iowa?
So I'm at the golf tournament today. I get a text message from Smitty. It's a picture of him with his kid with my sister. Yeah. And so I put it on the Instagram. I was like, how does this happen? What are you
Presumably
doing?
they just wandered around Brett, Iowa yelling,
Yeah.
Nick's sister!
Is this on our Instagram account?
Yes.
No way. I didn't even
Yeah.
notice this. Oh my God, there it is. Oh,
Yeah.
this is great. Smitty's and Britt. Your sister's doing the fucking peace sign. This is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's so great, man. I totally missed that. Oh, that's fantastic. Good job, Smitty. That's
Yeah.
great. I'm glad somebody went to Iowa, because we're not going. Is it cold there yet? It looks a little chilly there.
Nah, I don't know. It's probably 50s during the day, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, early voting is open wherever you are, hopefully. But it is in Nevada, so get that shit in because all elections matter and you matter. Found out my therapist is a Trump supporter. I found out yesterday that my therapist could very well be a Trump supporter, or she is simply apolitical. She would not tell me who she supports, but she did say that a lot of people really like Trump. I'm a sexual assault survivor. Trump is a self-avowed sexual predator. This woman did nothing wrong to me. She has helped me, and I like her. But because there were people around me who didn't believe me when I said I was sexually assaulted as a teen, I will have trouble working with her if she is not able to say that Trump is a sexual predator. I feel sad about this. Of course, there are therapists who are Trump supporters, and I believe everyone has the right to vote for the candidate of their choice and to choose their political party. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the situation. The election is fast approaching, and I know there are a lot of people wrestling with politics as part of mental health. Thanks, Anonymous.
So this is funny. I mean, not this.
Boy, that's fucked up.
I agree. It is hilarious, Nick.
Yeah, so
Finally, Nick and I are on the same page comedically.
I was playing in that golf tournament yesterday. Okay. And when you're in Vegas, all of these golf courses, they're built into golf course communities. Okay?
Oh,
yes.
Houses on both sides.
Oh,
People live on them.
Houses line the fairways.
Yeah.
I knew that happened sometimes. I didn't know that was common.
Virtually all of them.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think there's like 2 in Vegas that don't. But,
okay.
So we're going in the fairway on one of the holes, and so you're seeing everyone's backyards.
Yeah. Met Frank Thomas.
Huh?
I was playing golf on one of the courses in Vegas, and Frank Thomas walked out of his house.
Oh, really?
The pro baseball player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was like, oh, shit, Frank Thomas. And he knew our caddy, so we talked to him.
Hi, Frank.
Cool. So somebody decorated their entire backyard, all Trump 2024.
Okay.
Like just flags, banners. There had to have been like 6 or 7 flags, 3 or 4 huge banners. There was a cardboard cutout of Trump. And next to Trump was the craziest shit I've ever seen. There was a full-on mannequin, female, life size, had to have been at least 6 foot tall, in a bikini, and very lifelike.
Of who?
Just some random female. Random female.
But with the Trump cutout.
With a cardboard cutout of Trump.
Just to show that he gets babes.
Yes, I don't know but that's it. I don't know. I don't know what the message was.
The message is he can
I don't
still
know what
get
the
it.
message was, but I will say it very realistic. Like for the longest time, I thought it was a real person.
Wow.
And she's like, wow, she's just standing very still.
If you've got the money to live next to a golf course, can you hire a professional to just stand in your backyard next to your Trump cutout?
You could, or you could do what I think this person did, which is actually got one of those Japanese sex dolls that they actually make, because it looked very
oh my god.
I don't know much about these sex dolls, Nick. Tell me more.
Yeah, bullshit. You send me the link.
Use Hey Scoops at checkout.
That's one that works.
That helps. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It was the funniest thing, though.
That is great.
But like the guy I was golfing with, we were just kind of looking at that and laughing. And like he and I, the guy I was golfing with, probably disagree politically.
Okay. Yeah.
But we were both having a good chuckle at this.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because like this gentleman, he wants to have that conversation.
Yeah, he does. He wants to have that fight.
Yes. He is waiting for somebody
to say something.
The guy was probably sitting out in his backyard. I just didn't see him.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's just sitting there waiting, like somebody's gonna throw something and I'm gonna be ready.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna have
somebody's gonna hit a golf ball at my sign here.
That's where I thought it was going in the beginning, because I know at driving ranges they put stuff out there to hit for fun. So you have something to aim at.
No.
And when you were starting that story, I thought, oh, that's interesting. The guy like maybe put out a cardboard of Trump and like one of Biden and like you could shoot at it or something, but no, he doesn't.
No, because you just hit his house with golf balls.
Oh, I see.
You wouldn't be able to put something in front of your house for people to hit golf balls at without getting golf balls hit at your house.
Yeah.
Seems like he's tempting fate, though. Right?
I agree.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why I would not do that at my golf club
House.
next door to house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
seem like
somebody's
the
going to hit a
idea.
golf ball at it. And then it's going to go through my fucking kitchen window.
But then you get to have that conversation.
And then you can have that conversation.
I
That's
think
it.
he's perfectly fine.
I think you might be.
busted a couple windows.
I think this is like a
This
weird
conversation.
stand your ground guy. Like, I think he's
Oh,
sitting there
it
with
could
a
be that
gun
too.
and he's just like, yeah, you hit a ball at my house. And he's like running out on the
He just
fucking
comes out and
fairway.
shoots people.
Yeah, I think he does.
He might.
He's got a rifle,
He might.
man. Yeah, that's all sorts of crazy there. So, and we realize that is not representative of all Trump supporters. So we're definitely not going to get too deep into the political waters here. But I like this question because I think the Trump era. So I want to break my comments into a couple pieces. One, I want to reflect on how the politicking in therapy has been relevant. And then two, I want to talk about the unique reality the writer's facing as a sexual assault survivor and fearing that the therapist would support a sexual predator, right? And so two different aspects, I think, and that could be in a variety of different angles. But let's start with the first thing. In 2016, I think it was November of 2015, so the election had just happened.
I believe it was a Thursday.
Tuesday, actually, because Trump had just been elected. And in the aftermath, there was this weeping and gnashing of teeth, like among so many people. I think that the national conscience had been starkly surprised. Hillary Clinton had been projected by every major outlet to be just dunking on this dude. He won. And there had been so much fear about he's going to build a wall, mass deportation, all the gay people are going to be rounded up and put in cages. And it just it was so extreme. And there was so much fear. And across the community in Las Vegas, in the mental health community, there were these all-out events among therapists where they were hosting grieving groups to comfort people and help people through this, and special ally groups for LGBT and just all these different things. And this got so big that NPR, National Public Radio, the local chapter of it, invited in some therapists to talk about this. And I was one of them, and I went with a UNLV professor who was hosting a lot of these groups, who's also a really good therapist in the community. She's an MFT. And so we went on the show, and we both talked about...
Stands for motherfucking therapist,
It
by the
does.
way.
Oh, I wish it fucking did. Oh, that's so great.
I'm a motherfucking therapist.
I'm going to use that with my students. So I'm literally giving a speech in a month on licensures, and I am 100% going to pause on that.
I mean, the fact that you still have this job and we're all surprised...
I know.
That's a good way to end this semester.
If you're going out, go out with a Jacob Smith line. Just boom, drop that mic, walk out of there with your head held high. So we get on the news, and so we're talking about this, and she is, to her, look, it was a different time, but she is just trying to comfort the masses, and she's talking about
who's the she? This is the other
other
therapist.
therapist
This is the
that's with
UNLV
me.
therapist.
Yeah,
the motherfucking therapist.
Motherfucking therapist.
Okay,
and she's lovely. I super respect her work. I didn't like the way she was angling in that episode. We were strongly being guided in that direction by the host, who was asking us these very loaded questions. And the assumption was, now that America is under attack, now that all these groups are about to be boxed up and shipped out and systematically prosecuted to the death, now that the FBI is about to be weaponized and sent home to gather like Gestapo, how do you comfort people in this time of great peril? And so she's talking about, great, let's talk about empowerment. Let's talk about creating, groups to cope and to grieve, and then how we're going to stand up to power and getting very politically preachy about here's how you advocate for yourself and all this stuff. And I took a very opposite approach that this was my second appearance on NPR. That was the reason I had gotten the call, because I had been called in years earlier for a different one that was a big relevant episode about a trans teenager who had taken their own life, and I got brought in to talk about that.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. And so I had a good reputation with the station at this time.
Nick, was that really hilarious too?
It was not. Yeah.
One statement taken out of context.
Dark humor. Nick was the cackling, this is great.
Now that's just my thing?
Yeah. So I'd gotten called in for the second one.
You've had worse things.
I have.
Golf, for instance.
I'll have worse things before this episode's over.
It will be canceled by the end. In the second episode that I was called into, by the end of this, I ruined my reputation so much with the station. I've never been called back in all the years since. And what had happened was...
They saw the mustache.
Yeah, this is pre-mustache. This is back whenever I was just a smitten young man. But I tried to explain to the masses that were listening, you're going to be okay. I don't think this guy is a good man either. I don't think he's a good president. But can we appreciate, at this point, $1 billion had been spent. It was the largest amount of spending ever.
Yeah.
To send a message to 51% of the nation that this bad man is going to kill you and destroy you. And I think he's a bad guy, and I don't think he's a good president. But can we agree that that much money being spent is not being spent to accurately portray somebody? Can we agree that the way to get a voter to vote is with hyperbole and shock, and that you have in some way been manipulated, because that's what advertising is. That's what propaganda is. That's been happening this whole time. And so I was trying to take the mature therapist approach of saying, let's right-size the fear, right? The Gestapo house-to-house thing is that we've been a nation for a really long time. We've had a lot of weird presidents. Like, there's a lot of institutions that prevent that kind of stuff. Let's get your mental health straight. Let's not sit here and talk about how to board up your fucking house and ammo up to defend yourself and like how to hide your friends and family from the bad man. And that's what the other therapist was saying.
So just so I'm clear, you were not invited back after telling a group of radio listeners that they were just wrong in how they were feeling.
Yeah. Well, I was not invited back.
Interesting. Okay.
The station was taking the position of the end is near.
Yes.
And I was taking the position of that is dangerous to say. There are the mental health crisis
You've been manipulated
reaction.
Into feeling this.
You've
don't
been
really
manipulated.
Think this.
Well, no, I didn't try to gaslight them. It was a scary time. And they were like, they're reading all this data about like reports of suicides after the election. And I was like, hey, if you and I agree that that is a fact, we have a responsibility on fucking NPR with your huge ass audience to speak peace and calm and reassurance, not to say you're right, the sky is falling and here's how you hide. So anyway, this circles back to since the Trump era began in November of 2015 in that sense, the politics surrounding therapy has never been bigger. And we've talked a lot about it on the show. I've gotten on my soapbox about therapists having this ethical obligation not to impose political values, staying apolitical or neutral, and all those things being very, very important. So I just wanted to speak to that because I think your question invites that openness of it can be really difficult. And I wish the therapist had never flashed any card that communicated that they might be a Trumper, right? Like, and it sounds like they were very subtle about it. It sounds like the most they said was a lot of people are supporting Trump, which seems pretty innocuous to me. But
that's what the therapist said?
Yeah, according to the question writer, they said something
like
the therapist said, well, a lot of people are supporting him. And like that was enough to set this
which is
patient
true
off. Which seems just more like a statement. Like,
yeah.
But also we weren't there. We don't know what the context of the statement was.
Contextually, it may have come off a certain way. And so it's really difficult because I don't want that. And me as a therapist, I have strived to really be really, really careful. And so I just wanted to park on that point first, because if you are a colleague or a student, if you're a therapist out there, I want you to notice how such a small, innocuous, benign little comment has shattered this human being. And that is so tricky. So there's a lot of people, especially during voting season, that start getting really like, ooh, I want to talk about it. And like, look, I'm a fucking podcaster in this context. I could get up here and talk about who I fucking vote for all day long without a shred of like being ironic about it or like, you know, having some kind of hypocrisy. And in years past, especially during COVID, we mouthed off about politics all the time. And yeah, I know I have patients that listen to this show.
Is doing some heavy lifting there.
It was me. And I beg them not to, because I don't think it's good for them to listen to this damn show. But anyway, if you're out there and you're a colleague, just realize from this question how dangerous it is. I'll take a breath, and then when I come back to my turn, I'll talk a little bit about, you know, sexual assault in that particular angle of this.
But I do think, so this could be broadened to be any topic where the patient feels like the therapist has the opposite belief.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
About X topic.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the same thing happens often when it comes to things like abortion.
Oh, yeah.
If someone is in therapy for whatever reason, but maybe they're also dealing with the grief or loss of a child, and then they feel like their therapist has a different view that like, oh, we conflict here on this, and how difficult it is to kind of open up, and you just kind of feel like, well, why would I talk to you? Because I'm here to talk about this one issue, and I get the sense that you have a belief that is in conflict with this issue. So it completely disrupts the therapeutic alliance completely.
Which is a little bit of, I think, I would bet it's a little bit of a lack of experience in therapy on the part of the patient. Because like what you're talking about is really important when you're having a conversation with a close friend about something that's important to you. If you don't feel like you and your close friend are on the same page, you might not feel that you can communicate with that close friend about this.
Could be true. With
your therapist, it's what Jim was talking about. It's supposed to not matter.
Yeah.
It's supposed to not matter at all because you're paying this person. Remember, therapists are the sex workers of the mental health industry.
Yeah, TM.
They are.
Yeah, TM. That's
like you are paying this person to listen to you and to work with you on these issues.
There are exceptions, and I think 80% of the time Jacob's point is that's correct.
Always exceptions. Yes.
Yeah, and the writer's story is an example of one, right? Because if you have suffered something like sex abuse, and then and let's take Trump out of it. Let's say that your therapist starts talking about how let's go with this. Your therapist starts talking about how they're a huge Will Smith fan, and there's a new Bad Boys movie coming out, and they're really excited about it. And like you are a male who was physically assaulted by other males throughout your life, and you're looking at this therapist like, so you just don't give a fuck that Will Smith walked up to Chris Rock and straight up assaulted him on live television. You still support that artist after something like this. I don't feel safe telling you about my shit anymore because I'm scared you're going to be cavalier about it.
Or, I mean, you could
have Michael Jackson on the radio. I was just going to say
Michael Jackson.
When the patient walks in.
Yeah, they could be like, oh, I love Halloween. I love Thriller. I love, and it's like, he was a child molester. Like, and that could be your personal truth is like, I've been through this.
Right.
And knowing that you have some kind of accepting attitude towards somebody that I perceive as a monster, I don't think that's the patient being oversensitive.
Oh, I don't either.
I think that's the exception to the rule that shows like, hey, I get it. Like, I get why that's true.
And again, like we've had this conversation before, which is as therapists, there's no point. You're not going to argue your case and say, well, no. Here's what I mean by this, or you're not going to change somebody else's mind about something. That's their reality.
Right.
Like in the same sense that like if you had somebody who came to you, Jim, and came into your office and was like, Trump won the election, I feel like the world's going to end. I feel like X, Y, and Z. You're not going to tell that, well, no, you're wrong. It's okay. Things are going to be all right.
Trump's great.
No, what you're going to say is you're going to say, okay, we acknowledge those feelings.
Yeah.
And let's find a way to work through that.
Right.
You don't challenge reality.
Right.
You go with the reality because it doesn't matter because their reality is what's important.
Their perception is valuable.
Right.
Yeah. And we're going to help them right size it by saying things like, when they say we're all doomed, it's all going to be over. Be like, I'll bet it does feel that way right now.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, but how did you feel in the 2016 election when he won? Oh my God, I was so scared. I was waiting for the Gestapo to come. I'll bet that was pretty scary too. It was. At what point did you start feeling hopeful again? Oh, well, and now you're helping them disentangle the closeness they have to the fear, but you're not doing it by telling them you're wrong, you're overreacting. Yeah, I agree.
And I want to say too, I don't mean when I said that it's not supposed to matter what your therapist thinks about these things, whether your therapist agrees with you on these points or not. I mean that as a dig on your current therapist. Right. I think your current therapist possibly has fucked up here.
I don't like that they accidentally showed a card.
That's it.
And
I don't think it's horrible, or it's probably not horrible, or whatever.
Sometimes you slip up, or you don't even notice. You don't even know that your patient is political or non-political, and then they say something like, Kamala's going to win in a landslide, and like you're worried that they say that because you're thinking, hey, I can see that you're really emotionally invested in this, and I worry for you because a lot of people are going to vote for Donald Trump. Or they might say something big. Like I've had situations where the patient says something. I could imagine myself saying something like this therapist did, because I could see a situation where the patient says, I've heard of people who vote for Donald Trump. They're all fucking racists and Confederates and weird. And, that's an unhealthy perspective to go back into your job with, or to your kid's school, or so like I would pepper in something like, I think like a lot of people are voting for him, like 50% of the nation, and just for perspectiving, yes.
And it can very easily just be as simple as when you think of Donald Trump writer, the first thing that you think of may very well be sexual predator.
Yeah.
That might be the first thing that pops into your head when you hear the words Donald Trump is the word sexual predator. And that's fair.
Yeah.
That's how you relate to that. That may not be the case with your therapist. Your
I
therapist,
think of Home Alone 2.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think of the great work he did in the WWF.
First thought. Yeah, he really has a portfolio.
Yeah.
He was in Little Rascals.
There you go.
A very good movie.
There you go.
I liked it. So.
But I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be just that one thing. But that doesn't negate the fact that is what you think of, and that therapist probably should have been a little more conscious of that.
So, Nick, now that this is out, the patient is saying, this is on my mind, but I still like this therapist. I don't have an issue with the person voting.
They've done good work.
But the sexual thing is hurting me. How do you want that patient to proceed?
That's a tough question. I think here's how I would do it. I would go to the next session, just feel it out, see how it goes.
Okay.
If this issue doesn't come up again and we can still make progress on whatever goals and objectives I have on my treatment plan, we can still make progress in that direction, then maybe this just kind of settles down.
Okay.
It just kind of simmers and we're able to still stay on point, right? But if it's one of those things that it continues to stir and it now becomes the obstacle that's preventing progress on the other goals and objectives that you've got for treatment, then I think maybe that needs to be discussed. And
maybe we bring it up. If it's in our mind and we can't move on from this and we're distracted by it, and now it's an obstacle, it sounds like what you're suggesting there is we want you to bring it up. We want you to share this with your therapist.
Yeah, I wouldn't just like ghost the therapist.
I don't want to see that.
And just no show.
The two things I don't want to see, and we've given this advice before about talking to your therapist about something difficult that they did or bothered you. A, I don't want to see you run away. I hate that. B, I don't want to see you come out to this person in an accusatory way. You've been doing all this therapy. Let's use those therapy skills to talk to the therapist and to say it in that generalist way. To say, as you know, as I've shared, I'm a sexual assault survivor. Because of that, I think I've noticed I have a real sensitivity to anybody out there in the world who I believe to be, a sexual perpetrator. And I consider Donald Trump to be that. And the other day, I felt like whenever you talked about him, just by noting that he has a lot of voters, either it sounded like you were normalizing him, or it sounded like maybe even kind of slanted toward him. And both of those thoughts scare me because I trust you with my truth, but I see him as a bad and dangerous person. I'm struggling. That's it. That's the way I'd want you to present it. And let the therapist untie that knot. Let them unpack it. And they might self-disclose. And I've seen therapists at this point go, okay, great. I'm just going to self-disclose. I'm not voting for that guy. I'm apolitical in therapy, but just so you know, I also don't like him. I'm not going to vote for him. Or that therapist may continue to play neutral and say, hey, look, thank you for telling me that. Thank you for telling me that. To be clear, I don't endorse candidates, and I didn't mean that. That's not how I wanted that to come off. Here's the context of how I made that comment. You said X, I said Y. I thought we were just talking math. I did not appreciate that could have sounded like that to you. I'm so proud of you for telling me. Now let's work through that. So that's what I would want you to do.
What do you think the chances are the therapist will say those allegations are a hoax and here's why?
Yeah. Depends on. So this is what breaks me is there are a lot of therapists.
It does happen.
And this goes back to, I think, one of my big complaints about the profession. And I did that stupid series of 7 Deadly Sins. And one of them was apprentice abandonment. And this is where I feel that we have not been able to, because of circumstances outside of our control, because of the financial realities of the field and the way we've designed this. We didn't, but the way it is designed for us.
I designed it.
Jacob did it. We do not get to mentor the new people the way I wish we could. And that's a lack of mentorship, because the exciting therapists now are like the influencer bullshit that are out there preaching revolution and change and all sorts of unethical nonsense. And like the moderate, boring, even-handed mentors that should be training the up-and-comers would have taught them how to handle this. That, yep, this kind of shit happens. You don't get defensive about it. You don't, push back. You don't correct. There is some jujitsu you can do to get through this and preserve the therapeutic alliance. But it is hard because that is not something you would have read in textbook. That is something you have heard another therapist do or they have coached you. And now you know the very gentle dance of how to navigate through that. It is not easy, but that is a time and experience kind of thing. Or a character disposition, but some people are born with it.
Yep.
Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Hopefully that helps. Thank you,
I've seen
Ryder.
a Maybelline commercial in a really long time.
I would go back to the therapist. If you do decide to go back to the therapist, if you feel like you need to, I would go through the lens of talking about yourself and not through the lens. Tell your therapist what they said and how that affected you.
Yes.
But go through the lens of how it affected you, not through the lens of what you necessarily think about the therapist and your opinions on the therapist. Let them work through that side as well.
Yep, I agree with that.
Anyway, Ryder, lean in on the relationship. Don't pull away. Don't ghost. Don't come in guns blazing. Be in a good meditative space whenever you share this, and share it through a personal perspective, not as everybody knows this is true, that is true, or even accusationally, you meant this when you said that. This is what you were saying. This is what you believe. Don't do that. Come in from a position of curiosity and vulnerability. Here's how that affected me. I know in my heart that is not what you wanted. You did not want me to feel this way, but that is how I felt. I'm revealing it to you, and I want to work on this together. How can we get through this? Psh, done.
Yep.
You've done all your part.
Yeah.
Now it's the therapist's job.
And then if the therapist hands you a lawn sign for Trump, then maybe start shopping.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, now there's a problem.
Wait until, I mean, I say that jokingly, but also kind of seriously. Wait until you know that there is a problem before addressing the problem. Make sure that, go back to the therapist. Make sure this problem exists the way that you believe that it does.
Yeah.
And maybe you're just right.
Yeah.
And maybe it is irreparable. But maybe it's not irreparable. Maybe you're mistaken about certain points in this. Maybe all the points. Who knows?
Yeah.
I believe it can probably be addressed, though.
And it's tricky because there's a part of me that wants to say that line about, look, even if you're a therapist, you bring this up and the therapist says, okay, wow, I'm sad that you went through this. I do support Donald Trump. I already voted for him. But just so you know, I'm really against that stuff. I don't agree with that. Or the therapist might say, I think that stuff's been exaggerated by people that are trying to sabotage his political career. I disagree with all that stuff. Here's 10 reasons why. And that gets really tricky, right? Because now we're getting deeper and deeper into something I don't think is really healthy for either of you to be talking about. But some therapists can feel like, oh, I need to help you by telling you it's not what you think. I wouldn't support a sexual predator. So it's the opposite. He's not one. Let me explain why. I would hate if that would happen, but I've seen that scenario where the therapist feels like that's what's going to fix this. And again, it's a lack of mentorship.
On a side note, I've been reading David McRaney's book,
How to Change Minds,
How
or How
Minds
Minds Change. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Oh, it's a great book. So great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the idea that facts have zero impact
It doesn't do it
on how people change minds.
No, it's really fascinating. We're going to get to do a lot of deep dives with that, and we'll see what that evolves into. But yeah, exciting stuff. But Ryder, lean back into therapy. Hopefully this comes out. Hopefully this is something the two of you can get beyond. I would caution you against a quest for truth. It's not putting this person on trial. It's really just saying, I want to repair the relationship and move on. That's it. Convince me that I shouldn't be scared around you. End. That doesn't mean you have to show me your entire voting resume. That's
because that doesn't matter.
You will always be disappointed. Like there's always going to be something. Like you voted for this state Senate race. How could you? He's a bad man. It's like, okay, at some point we can't do this. Like it's got to be also a medical appointment about your needs.
Yeah, like it doesn't. Their personal the therapist's life. Doesn't matter as far as you're concerned.
It has to less matter, way less than where it is right now. We're going to take a final break, and then when we come back, we're going to wrap up the show. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Lib, Heyo, and Andrew Langmead. And if you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy.
All right. As we wrap up the show, we want to remind you can sign up at patreon.com/therapy. You can get our extended show advertisement free a day earlier, as well as enjoy our live chat, Discord community, and our weekly deep dives, interviews, skill shares, research, roundups, and rants. And we also want to remind you that if you're out there and you've been listening to the show for a while and we're part of your weekly lineup, will you please go into the episode description? You'll see that we've got some links there to jump over to your iTunes, jump over to Spotify, or down at Good Pods, and drop us a review. Give us that 5 stars, say a few words if you want to, or if not, just drop the 5 stars. But it really does, that's the number one way that people are going to find this podcast. When you get more reviews and you're getting regular reviews and they're good reviews, the algorithms say, all right, this show is alive and well, people continue to enjoy it, it seems to be refreshing, and then it puts that in people's search feeds. So please, help us bring our message to the world.
5-star reviews only. You can do 1 stars, but send those in email.
Yeah. We'll take those.
Yes,
yeah.
We'll take them.
PodTherapyGuys.
Jim loves to read them.
Yep. It just
he goes into
line,
a little bit of an existential crisis.
Oh yeah, if you want to hurt
really
me,
fun.
Yeah, you won't hurt me by putting it on the iTunes.
No,
I just won't fucking read it.
Email him directly.
Email it. Yeah, if you're like, I just fucking hate these guys. Yeah, PodTherapyGuys, gmail.com. Just send the hate mail, man. Well, trust me, I will read it a lot. I will agonize over it. You will get way deeper cuts if you do that. But we also want to thank new Patreons who support the show at patreon.com/therapy. Who's new to the Therapod?
New Therapod, Kerna Pillar.
Welcome. Woo, woo. Welcome, man. We love you. And as we get to the end here, we want to thank the benevolent, revered, and generously, flagrantly pro-therapy diehards who love you all so much.
And you were good at
this. They
this.
give till it hurts. The Therapartners, Dirty B, Pickett, and Jacques Schneider.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, sorry, I keep going.
Yeah.
And we want to especially thank our bosses, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Their producers. Thank you, Myra, Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Smitty Scoop, Ben Don, Judy Schneider, Kayla Lansbury, Malia, Leon... I'm just going to say them all wrong now. Leon Kassab, Maison Millier, I like that. Richard fucking Macy, Carolyn Albert, Kevin Chamberlain, Tess Miller, Sammy Scoop, Ben Stanley, Slap in Your Face, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, Mike Helm, Paris, Darren Cunningham, Lib, Team Monaco, Thunder, Cougar, Falcon Scoop, Matt and Lisa Tangeman, Heyo, Oscar Swanrose, A Sunny Boy, Slurpy Kaye, Motherfucker, Sandra McWaffle, Dan Martin, Hannah Marie, Andrew Langmead, Emma Kane, Alina, Cody the DeLorean Guy, and Sam Cohn.
If you would like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
and why wouldn't you?
And enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time we got for this week's session. I want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast. And thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. But remember, Pod Therapy isn't something to keep all to yourself. Share the show with the world. Tag us on the socials when you do. It's at PodTherapyGuys on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter, /PodTherapy on Facebook. And don't forget about all the extra goodies at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Of course you do, and you should, because we're running dangerously low. Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at PodTherapyGuys, or by clicking the link in the episode description to be taken to our anonymous Google form. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim.
Thanks. Whitney. And we'll see you for appointments next week. Some of you may have noticed we added an